Hello, everyone. Yui here with Pat again as well. This time doing a commentary for the director's cut put out by Arrow Video recently for Michael Mann's 2015 movie Blackhat. You can watch alongside us when we say 3, 2, 1, and then a countdown of go, or you can just listen to this by itself as its own little distinct podcast. But either way, we're going to get started. 3, 2, 1, go. So, have you seen this director's cut? This version? Because
Yes, I have.
I saw the bootleg one that was, I think, Ryan Swen put it together a while back. I haven't seen this version, so this will be this will be a new thing for
Oh,
me.
cool. Right,
But
because
I
somebody
imagine the broad
reconstituted it.
beats are the same.
Yes, the main thing, there's a few notable changes, but the main thing is that it doesn't begin with the reactor explosion. It begins with the stock exchange soy futures jack up. It's like a more kind of like,
Yes.
frog in the pot, scaling up of disaster, rather than like starting with ground zero right at the beginning. And you get that lonely, I don't know. There's something about like the Wall Street Stock Exchange, like beginning the movie in this like hollowed out cathedral of capitalism, that's significant. I feel like.
Right. Well, it just, you just have all these terminals and, and numbers fluctuating. And yeah, it's, there's no one around to observe them because it's all, I don't know, it's become this fucking graveyard.
Yeah, I mean, earlier Michael Mann movies, it's about criminals who cut into metal, and they obviously, we get into like there's mercenaries, and there's more kind of the traditional medium of the crime film that we see later, but he wanted to do a movie where the terrain of crime is digital, and you get some of these
Yeah,
like vivid,
man, it's
yeah,
the fucking future. Oh, look at this! Look at this shit. This shit's so goofy. I love this. God bless him. Look at him do this stuff. Whoa, into the computer. This is like, it's like Giant Mnemonic or something. It reminds me of that.
yeah. I'd heard, I mean, I'm sure as you have, I'd heard rumors that he was going to be doing a sci-fi film at some point, or that he had interest in doing a sci-fi film. And when I see sequences like this, this must be like what that would be like to some extent.
Yeah, I don't know what that would be. I have never heard like what that project exactly was. I know he wanted to do like another he wanted to do a Vietnam movie that was based off a book. Don't remember
Oh,
what
that would
that
have been
was
cool.
either.
Yeah, Hue 1968 or something like that. Like he was going to do a miniseries about, yeah, like the Hue, just some major like, oh no, the Tet Offensive. Sorry, yeah, he was going to do something about the Tet Offensive. Now, I love whenever they check in on the hacker, the Blackhat, and you just see these little glimpses of like the ashtray, or like he's like right now he's gonna be jamming on the keyboard, but you don't see him till
Yeah,
the
well,
end.
he's kept as a kind of like a Fritz Lang like specter over the movie, who is eventually revealed. He's like a Dr. Mabusa type figure.
He's so scary, like the actor who plays him, and like the performance. What little we see of him, like I really like that character. I guess this is all very realistic. You'd have to ask somebody who knows about hacking, but I'll take their word for it.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, the guy who plays Sadak, I think his name is.
Yeah, from
Um,
Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
yeah, he's from Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, but more importantly, he's also in Chronicles of Riddick.
Yeah.
I think he plays like the owner of like the prison that he gets sent to.
hmm Yeah, he just has those eyes, those like pitiless, malicious eyes. Where like he doesn't need to be saying anything, and it just feels like he's.
Now, see, this was the stuff that was put into the fucking the version that I saw, the fan cut.
Yeah, this is
The
the
stuff
director's
with
cut stuff.
this stuff with the boat. Yeah, so this so like they basically can't let the boat go into harbor because what the price was raised or something. It's the harbor
Yeah,
master. The
Well,
harbor
right.
master who is not his cousin.
Well, right. You kind of like it's like a gradual build where you're realizing that like, oh shit, the markets are getting messed up in a big way.
Oh, his insurance has been revoked. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see.
But this is like the characters are more decentralized in this than in, for example, because you got to compare this to like Miami Vice or Heat, where it's not, you're usually kind of like you have some characters that are your vantage point into like a complex world, whereas with this, it's more of like diffuse.
Yeah, well, you don't. You start off with a much more heady space, then it becomes more and more actualized as the film goes on, which is, I don't know, in a way, I suppose the opposite from the way Mann likes to start most of his other movies, which often like begin with, I don't know, something very direct and immediate, and then you get the setup of this or that.
I love the way they introduce him though. It's very badass. He's putting his tie and his suit on,
Yeah, he's
Chen.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's awesome in this movie. I love this guy. I
I
see,
feel
like,
bad for him.
there's all these like long lens close-ups of like these surfaces and like these like office buildings, and I don't know, like there's this the way this movie is photographed. It reminds me a lot of Antonioni and Red Desert, where he's like he's so punched in on this industrial landscape. But even then, like that was kind of this idea of like post-war Italy, but now we're getting like this global uh interconnected society of, like digital crime and stuff. So it's like man is taking it and then like making it even more abstract and immediate.
Yeah, you often mention Antonioni in the context of Man. Now, is that one of Man's guys, like his directors, to your knowledge?
I've never heard him talk about Antonioni, but I feel the way that man's characters are like alienated and rootless, and they're just kind of these disaffected people. It
Hmm.
very much reminds me of the way that, especially in Antonioni's earlier movies, like in the early '60s, like the way his protagonists move around. It reminds me of the way that like Will Graham in Manhunter, like
Yeah.
he's kind of got that same vibe that like Mastriani has in La Notte, where he's like just like a man kind of at the end of his rope. And you, not all main characters like this, like like Vincent Hanna isn't, obviously, but the kind of reserved type is there's something to that.
Now, I love this aspect, and of course, now we introduce Viola Davis's character, but like
Yeah,
they
this
need to
movie's
plug and
cast is
drive in.
insane.
It's so good, yeah. But the kind of blue server room, which does it probably does look blue in real life, but
Yeah,
it's kind of a dazzling interior, just like a
right.
cinematic interior.
Well, in here it looks like both. That scene in Public Enemies when they're inside the like
Oh,
the
the phone, like
telecommunications.
yeah.
Yeah, like I forget what that's called, but yeah, they're inside there. It reminds me of that. It reminds me of the fucking inside Umbrella core in the first Resident Evil, where
Oh,
like you're just kind
yeah.
of surrounded by these pillars of light.
I love how smug this guy is, who runs like the security company. He just like he wants so badly to be able to brush these cops off who are trying to get in and see, what may have been tampered with.
Oh, you know what this stuff with the boat reminds me of? What was that? You remember the boat? I don't know. It was like a year or two ago. The boat that got stuck in the port and like
Oh, in the
held up.
Suez Canal.
Yeah. Like it reminds me of that a little bit, where like that, because everything depends on that one little thin strip, and it goes to show that like because we live in this connected, interdependent society, when stuff actually does go wrong on like a micro scale, it can have like these huge knockdown effects because so much depends on these, like everything just running super smoothly or as smoothly as is possible.
Movies like this really get me to consider like why. so many filmmakers are allergic to telling stories about right now because right now is moving so rapidly. And I think like it's easier to just kind of slip into a convention, or if you're going to do a crime film, um, to uh, to settle on like a genre archetype, or to kind of like just to do a really great version of something that's been done before. And Black Hat, it really does try to kind of like break out of that mold, or it tries to kind of like um, tell its story and in a world that just hasn't really been charted before. In dramatic, in
Yeah, well, I
cinematic
mean, this movie
storytelling.
is almost a decade old, but to me, it still feels like pretty contemporary. Um, Perhaps just like our way of aesthetically presenting certain things hasn't evolved that much, but yeah, the problem with that kind of stuff is every time you try to be ahead of the game, you end up, yeah, like giant mnemonic, right? Like that's, I love that movie, but
Yeah.
it is like this more expressionistic, hyperbolic vision of technology, and in a way, I mean, this movie it's got the Michael Mann thing where it's very grounded. It doesn't feel that outlandish to me at all. I mean, I don't know. Like maybe programmers who know shit would be like, "This would never happen," but just a fucking layman's eyes, it's pretty legit to me. There's nothing super crazy.
Well, it was wise for him, as far as I can tell, to not try and juice it up at all. Like when they've got when they're scanning through those lines of code, they're not doing the Johnny Mnemonic thing where they're these big
Yeah,
animated sequences. It's like it's not trying to convey like an impressionistic idea of what hacking is like. It's just like, okay, let's just show a guy looking at a screen.
exactly.
Now, I love their relationship, and there's a kind of a shorthand as brother and sister that they have that's very I don't know, it puts you in their corner right away. Like
Yeah, well, you immediately understand like they kind of like they're in this similar sphere, but like he still has this protective thing over her, but he also respects her, and like it's a pretty interesting idea for this kind of movie where we do have like people who like move in like similar spaces. Like, yeah, why not brother and sister?
now isn't
Yeah,
he? I
Tong
heard
Wei
somewhere.
is like
Yeah.
wonderful. She's such a wonderful actress. I love her in fucking Decision to Leave. There's a movie. The fucking Blu-ray's coming in one of these days. I think tomorrow maybe. Was it Long Day's Journey into the Night? She's
Mm.
also in. And she's in a Johnny Toe movie, like this like really crazy musical called Office with Chai Yun Fat as well. Yeah, she's cool. I
Wow.
like every time she shows up, I'm like, damn, she's great. Yeah, but this is the first time I saw her in this movie.
Me too. And of course, we had John Ortiz earlier.
Yeah,
Erstwhile
yeah,
Jose Hierro from Miami
yes.
Vice.
It's it's so funny. Like, yeah, man really does have like his kind of like stock company of guys. Like Holt McElhaney in this movie, holy shit!
So
Like
fucking good.
my that guy, I'm like, dude, he was born to be in a Michael Mann movie. It's crazy. I mean, he basically says nothing in this movie. He's like a mute character, but when he shows up, you're like, this fucking guy. You know what? Who Michael Mann should work with? Fucking Shea Wiggum. He should put Shea Wiggum in like his
Yeah,
next movie. That
yeah,
like Shea Wiggum would fit like a glove.
yeah. Wiser words than ever been spoken. He would fit right in. Yeah, there's that great scene, the action sequence later where Holt McCallany drives in and just starts taking shots at this mercenary
It's
crew
so
that's
good.
firing.
Oh, so
Yeah,
good.
but like technically he's there to arrest Hathaway, but yeah, he's just when he opens fire, he's opening fire on, I would say, the right side of that conflict.
Right. Yeah, the way that the subject matter of this movie and the way that man films things, it's very reminiscent. I feel like he watched like Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, and he
Mm.
was just because this movie also has like bits of the Social Network score in it, the Trent Reznor
Yeah,
Atticus Ross score.
it's
Like,
yeah.
yeah, that it's interesting. Like it does feel. I mean, it's funny because like Fincher would never have this level of handheld in his movies, but
Right.
the aesthetic is not too different. It's kind of got this like morose, like somber, kind of like earthy but steely color palette.
What you said about the soundtrack, because we
Oh
did a
God, yeah,
commentary, yeah, a while back for Kingdom of Heaven director's cut, and that was an instance where I think Ridley Scott was poaching little bits from other films for to fill
yeah,
this
even from
extra
his own
content.
stuff.
Yeah, yeah, and I think Mann does that a bit with this one because he uses some
Oh, a
music
bit.
from yeah, Elysium, but I mean I don't know, it really works, I think.
Well, he's always done this. I mean, it must suck to be a fucking composer working for him because who was it? It was like Harry Gregson Williams or someone who
Yeah.
basically like wrote an entire fucking score for this movie, and then man was like, actually, fuck you, like I'm not going to use any of it,
Yeah.
and and Harry Gregson Williams like took to Facebook to complain, understandably so.
Okay, so 15 minutes in is when we first meet Chris Hemsworth, which I think is a great decision, and that's particular to the director's cut. Theatrical cut, he comes in earlier, and you
Right.
just see him completely dehumanized in prison. And there's I still haven't seen Jericho Mile, that TV movie set in
Yes.
Folsom, but again, we see man returning to that
Yeah, well, he's
well
just
of
obsessed. He's just like, but
yeah.
love a guy behind bars.
I wonder how true that story is about Good Will Hunting. That like he wanted to reimagine Good Will Hunting as like about like Mexican cartels and prison culture and stuff, which would have been cool.
You know what? Fuck it. Why not? Just see, but I love it. He can't help himself. His mind gets burning. he just
Yeah,
he just comes up with all
yeah.
these ideas.
I love Hemsworth's slick back hair in this. Such a cool look.
Yeah, he looks
Very
great.
like
He's
a
probably
yeah.
it's probably the best he's ever looked, in my opinion. He looks awesome in this film. Yeah, I mean, man, also like being very subtle, where it's like he's like fucking he has like discipline and punish on his bookshelf, and the guards just like throw the book down. They're
Yeah,
like, fuck
there's
you
that
reading about the prison system.
right, that shot of like the guards boots just stepping on his photos. Like I love that. It's just this is a great little negotiation here. Sometimes an archetype works really well, like this Department of Justice guy who brings in the deal, like just radiates dickhead energy. I love that little line of dialogue coming up where he's like, "How badly do you want this guy?"
Yeah, you got a fucking bargain.
It's so moving when he finally gets discharged and him and Chen have that like warm embrace outside the prison. Like for as kind of like there's like a coldness to this film overall that was alienating to people when it first came out. But I think that there's a real tender heart to it. Like
I don't,
and
I
yeah.
mean, weirdly enough, yeah, I think his earlier movies are far colder than this. I think he's like, by the time he gets to this, I mean, to me, this is a very like warm and intimate movie, but maybe my standards are warped.
Well, this bombed when it came out, and I was so bummed out when that happened because the Sony hack had just happened. Like, I think maybe the same week that it came
Oh
out. Like, I was
yeah, that's
hoping,
right. Yeah,
yeah, and I saw it a couple of times in theaters. Like, it always gets compared to the Bourne films because the Bourne films were,
really, this? Huh?
yeah, espionage thrillers, and I think probably I'm not a marketer, but like the commercial success of the Bourne movies can probably be owed to Matt Damon's star power. But like in terms of like the nuts and bolts of like how they function as pieces of storytelling, there are there's points of similarity between Blackhat and the Bourne saga. And so why did this do so much more poorly, or were audiences so resistant to something like this? But they embraced the Bourne identity. I don't know. It's
Well, here's the thing with this movie. I think the key problem is that this was a casualty of like the devaluation of movie stars that's like still ongoing. And Chris Hemsworth, like
it
this
was
was
early for him.
before, well, it was early for him. You know, it was a pretty daring choice, and honestly, like this is, you know, as far as Michael Mann projects go, it's pretty abstract. You know, there's a lot of stuff in here that even I don't. I'm like, okay, I kind of get it, but not really. Like it's. Uh,
And I personally
I,
love that.
I
I
can.
love being
I
confused.
mean, I love it too. Like you and I love that, but the average person, they see a trailer like this for this movie and they don't know what to make of it. You know, so they're like, fuck it, whatever. So now this bit when he goes into the airport, this is one of the great Michael Mann scenes
Wow.
where
Yeah, just
he's like framed against, because you really get this sense of like, oh yeah, a guy who's been fucking trapped inside and now he's like, you know, he's kind of got a culture shock being in a wide open space.
there's a couple little moments in the theatrical cut that are absent here. We just blew past one where he's thrown into the hole after it's revealed that he's been he hacked the commissary accounts basically for everybody on his cell block, and he plussed up their accounts. And so there's a little moment where he's thrown into the hole, and we see Hathaway doing like push-ups.
Right.
And yeah, and I thought that was such a great little character moment for whatever reason it was jettisoned here. And there's one later of
Well, you can see
what
why, like, Man very much he wants that beat of him, then like it kind of being like a gag where he's like, "How badly do you need this guy?" Then you know, and then he gets let out.
yeah, right, yeah, it's
See, this is so good
he-
when when she touches his arm and it like brings it back into the moment.
yeah, this is one of the all-time man, you know,
Well, he's got like
sensory
the subtle
details
fucking slow motion here, like where like he'll hold on some moments, but you won't tell that it's slow motion because it'll just be like someone's hair moving in the wind, and then like it'll fade into the regular frame rate.
Well, yeah, because that's what movies need to do is you need to put us inside the character's feelings. And I think
Yeah,
like
but he does it
those
in such
little
a
sensory
subtle way.
moments,
It's very interesting. Like he doesn't do like the big obvious like showy stuff. It's you can if you don't know what you're looking at, you can kind of miss it.
for sure. And God, I just love so much Viola Davis's character's dynamic with that. With I mean, the way the team starts to kind of grow together. You know, it's not quite like buddy buddy IMF shenanigans the whole way through, but there's a great beat later on where she says to Hathaway, "You can call me Chica if you want to."
Oh, that shit's so good.
Um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh god.
Now I love this moment where Hathaway walks into the server room and he's just like he immediately can kind of like suss out how somebody may have broken in
Right.
because he knows how he would have done it. Yeah, like the hacker's plot when you finally figure out what he's trying to do is so evil. Like or it's just like there's so much casual destruction that
Well,
he
again, he's the classic like Michael Mann, Waingro type, like just the figure of instability and chaos, just like taking advantage of like a world that's kind of, you know, it's built itself into this fragile sheet of glass and ones and zeros.
well yeah and of course like we don't get any hint of the bad guy's backstory or anything like that or like
Well, you
no
don't need that
no
shit. Well, this is the
yeah you
main thing
don't
though. He doesn't really provide that stuff usually ever. Like these characters often just feel like out of the blue.
right and I mean it's a great point that like if there's no dramatic reason to convey that information then probably shouldn't convey it because it doesn't belong but yeah like the ethic of the black hat hacker is like well if you can do it you should do it why wouldn't you do it this exercise of power now we get some of the prison gang stuff. Is that In-N-Out Burger? I need to
Maybe.
do a
Well,
forensic look later.
he's in what is it? He's in Texas right now, right?
Ooh,
I know they go to Texas. I'm pretty sure. Maybe I'm wrong.
now I thought it was a really cool idea in the screenplay that it's their code It's Chen and Hathaway's code that
Right.
the hacker
Well, it just shows you like this
commandeered.
stuff has no morality to it. It's just tech that just floats around.
Hmm.
Although when fucking when he insults him later, he says like, "Oh yeah, your shitty code. Well, I used it in a better way." And it's like, motherfucker, you stole some guy's shit. Now you're insulting him. Like that's some petty stuff.
That's a great moment. And now here we get this. I love when he stands up from the desk and the camera's just shoved right in his nose, and he's like, now he's looking for what's next.
Yeah, man. Like he really
Yeah.
fucking gets like up and close. Like there's almost like a Maliki thing with his tracking
Hmm.
shots.
This reminds me too of, like, I mean, he's been doing this since William Peterson and Manhunter.
Yes. Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's like the same shit.
Mm. Yeah, like there's a very scary kind of like ongoing dynamic in this movie of like how there's no like formal structure, or there's not an obvious formal structure to this criminal organization that's doing all these hacks. Like
Yeah, where everything's
the
siloed. Everything is.
yes,
Yeah, it's like the
untraceable.
people. Yeah, it's untraceable, and everything runs through proxies.
So you really get the kind of like this pervasive feeling that like they could do anything and kind of slip in and out, and like it's you can sense how this would be a nightmare for law enforcement. The more John Ortiz, the better, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. I hope he's in the next man thing.
Yeah,
I'm a disco guy.
yeah, I'm a disco guy.
That's
That's
how you
such
know
a
he's a
yeah.
psychopath. that's man's like
Right.
his screenwriter's way of like being like, this guy is evil. He likes disco.
Yeah, he doesn't even like Saturday Night Fever. Staying Alive, that's his favorite movie. He watches it all the time.
Didn't Stallone direct that?
Yeah, Stallone directed it, and I think Frank Stallone, his brother, did the music.
Oh, of
And
course he did.
right. God, Holt McCallany is such a great presence. He did this series like during prestige peak prestige TV. It only ran for one season about a boxer called Lights Out. And anyway, he trained like crazy, and it was like a boxing procedural, and nobody's seen it, and nobody really
Oh,
talks about
okay.
it. But
Interesting.
he's a little old for that kind of thing now. But yeah, like he's been in movies forever. He's just like very rarely foregrounded. Like he was in Fight Club, he was in Alien 3 in like very small performances, But
Yeah,
obviously, like, yeah,
was he in True Detective? Any of those seasons?
he should have been. He wasn't, but
It feels
yeah.
like he was in my head, but I know he's not. I guess.
Hmm. This is a great moment where Viola Davis threatens this guy with uh, basically just getting a security breach in the press. Like this is the type of guy the FBI should threaten.
I well, I I would hope they're not threatening anyone, but I see what you mean.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I wonder. It's interesting. This film, like, I wonder. It'd be cool if we got a movie that was like this. If in the future all this AI shit ever amounts to anything other than just
Hmm.
fucking like writing your college essay paper for you, you can make a very interesting story, like because there are like cyberpunk books which talk about like the generalized artificial intelligence, like William Gibson and
I
Snow
was thinking William
Crash and shit
Gibson.
like
Yeah.
this. Yeah, yeah, there are plenty of books like this. I think Michael Mann was originally going to do an adaptation of Neuromancer at some point. I remember that.
Yeah, they keep trying to make it, or Hollywood keeps trying to adapt it. I
Yeah,
think,
it's rough.
yeah,
It's because it's pretty big. I mean, like it's got some cool stuff, but it's also like It's like Raymond Chandler on steroids.
Is that the book that opens with the line, "The sky was the color of TV"?
Yes, yeah.
Turn to it, yeah. It's so good.
Yeah, Gibson at his best.
Yeah, I love that line where Hathaway says, "What happened to you?" And you get the sense, this is a version of himself he's coming into contact with, where he's just kind of like some like corollary detail to like some big hacking scheme, and he just gets ground up like chum.
Oh, I love these close-ups where you can see the fucking like the pixels on the monitor.
Yeah, like see, the only thing that's kind of close to this that I've seen about hacking is there's a show called Mr. Robot that my friend really likes, and I can't
Oh
really get into it.
yeah.
It's not really my thing, but like it's a similarly kind of like low tech, um, realistic feeling glimpse into this world, and I just feel like if you're gonna do it, unless you're just gonna go balls to the wall, like you said, Johnny Mnemonic, like let's make this into something it's not. Like I feel like you got to be a one either of those poles to do a story about hacking on in a movie. Now this is a great moment where he like very subtly changes the setting on Holt's phone,
This
so
is
if he
so
needs to
good. It's
escape
so
later.
good.
Yeah,
It's so good.
it's like one of us like what we would do with our dad's phone, and he would have no
Right,
idea.
but it's like, what I love is that you could just have it be like it's something so stupid like that, but it totally works. It's like
Yeah,
if you weren't checking it, you wouldn't notice.
right. Yeah, I mean little things, that really sell it.
But did you notice in that scene that uh, she notices that he does it?
Hmm.
She clocks
Hmm.
him.
And she would, right? I mean, she's the type, the little sister who doesn't miss a thing.
Oh no, this restaurant scene.
Oh, so
Fuck,
good.
so good, so good.
There's a real palpable feeling of danger. I mean, like, and you could say that for any number of action sequences, but like, I don't know, like it feels like an
Well,
actual like
well,
bar fight. Like it feels like
the way he films this is like so strange. It's very weird. It looks like a fucking World Star like fight recording or something. Like the way the camera just fucking throttles every time someone gets hit.
Mhm.
It's like, yeah, it's just very intense.
Yeah, I mean, and he for real mauls these guys. Like these guys are going to
Oh
be
yeah, no,
hospitalized for a long time.
no.
Yeah. And now we get a bit of backstory about his stint in prison and
Yeah, just let him looking around and shit.
right, eyes in the back of his head or head on a swivel. But like I get the sense that Michael Mann, like when he has a character divulge some backstory and dialogue like this, like he will defend it with his life. Like, no, the character would be saying this at this moment in time. Like it's because yeah, you got to be careful with the exposition. You know what I mean? You can't really break the reality of like, what is this something the characters would be saying to each other?
Well, it makes sense that she would ask this too because she's not even from this country, so she's just trying to figure out like
Right.
who the fuck am I talking to?
This reminds me a bit of in Public Enemies when Dillinger and
Gladiator Academy.
Billy, yeah, Gladiator Academy. Such a great line. I traded academia for Gladiator Academy. I always like that line too. He's like, I don't burn people. He rips off banks. He doesn't burn people. Or this is his idea of himself anyway. Also, isn't there a detail where like his dad is like a Pennsylvania like coal miner or something like that? Like, but anyway, he's got all the man protagonist credentials for sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, like Hathaway very much does resemble Man in several degrees. Although I don't know if Man's father was a coal miner or something. Maybe that was
he was a
true.
cab he was a cab driver.
Oh shit, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like Max from Collateral. Yeah, Hathaway doesn't look like he doesn't look. It's that joke about how Christopher Nolan's characters all look like him. You know, he looks like Christopher Nolan in this movie. There's a really heartwarming aspect too in this about like it's almost like an extension of her love for her brother is like her falling for him. You know what I mean? It's kind of like because that's her brother's
Yeah,
best
well,
friend.
yeah, no, definitely. Well, you can imagine he's probably like mentioned him in the past, right? But like this is the first time she's actually getting to meet him in person.
Right.
Um, yeah, the what I like about that scene is that she just immediately like, clocks his like self pity and is. I mean, it's a total rejection of the type of like Frank character from Thief, who like has developed this like rigid sense of self, and immediately like she's like what are you doing? Like you can't afford to be this type of to like say this type of rhetoric about yourself and to say like I'm this, I'm that, like you're like you're in like a high stakes scenario here, so if you don't pay attention, if you're unwilling to keep up with what's going on around you, like it's your own ego is going to get in your fucking way.
Hmm. Now this is a wonderful moment where the camera tracks over his other shoulder, and then he
It's
sees the
great.
camera, and then yeah, I
It's so
mean
good.
that's I mean like another pervasive aspect of this movie is that there are eyes everywhere. Like there's it's such a porous universe where like the villain can be everywhere and nowhere. I would say that Hathaway is a little less evolved than Frank in Thief, and it's probably a function of age. But like in Thief, there's that great scene in the diner, where he talked about his experience in prison, and he's kind of making his pitch for white picket fence and everything. And I would say Hathaway's kind of like not quite through that trajectory yet. He's a young guy. He's still got a few cards to play.
Well, I think that's why she calls it out, because she's like, you're basically talking like someone who's who
Yeah,
is
you're
like
on
this
the
like
yard.
super, yeah, like this super hardened person, but you're outside of prison, so like you don't have to think like that anymore.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, and this is LA, by the way, because I was thinking it was Texas too, but I was reminded when they're at
Well,
the
no, because
apartment.
they were in Texas, I think, and then they go to LA
Oh,
because this is the restaurant that they were referred to. I'm pretty sure. It's hard to tell because man just jumps between things and there's no title cards or anything, so you're just showing up in one place.
that's a really good point. Like because I think I remember in an interview with Man, or maybe it was like if he ever did record a commentary track for this, like he wanted the audience to kind of feel disembodied as we move through the world of Black Hat. Like we're in this
Yeah,
country, we're in
well,
that country.
I definitely do. Yeah, I mean, as like a formal thing in the movie, it definitely works in that way.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think this is. I don't think he's done any commentaries. I know he did one for Thief, I think, and for
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah,
Machinist,
yeah, he
and
did
maybe
one for Collateral.
Heat.
Yeah.
Collateral, yeah, that's right. He did one for Collateral, and for the director's cut of Vice, but not for this.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's unfortunate
This,
this movie kind of got fucking left to the wolves because I do think it's one of his best. I quite like it. Um, yeah, this bit.
this is chilling. This is chilling. I mean, this guy. Yeah,
Ghost Man. Dude,
I.
Ghost Man is like such like '90s hacker bullshit. I love it. It is. I mean, it's like the fucking Angelina Jolie movie. Piss off
Oh
and
yeah.
die, Ghost Man.
I love it when he basically drains his bank account near the end of the film.
Oh,
Like,
so good.
he finally lands a blow on this guy. It's so satisfying. Yeah, this is terrifying. You get like four guys coming after you with like broken bottles and stuff. Just, oof.
Oh my god, yo.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Yeah, Hemsworth's a big guy.
Oh, yeah, he's huge. Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess they based him on this guy. What's his name? Christopher McKinley, who kind of looks like Chris Hemsworth, or he's just kind of like a jacked, like blonde guy.
Dude, dude, he just slashes this guy's face up.
Yeah,
It's over, man.
gnarly.
And no amount of plastic surgery is gonna save that dude. He's just fucking carved. It's crazy. Getting slashed with a bottle. It's so brutal. And man
Yeah,
just doesn't fuck around. Like when someone in his movies gets fucked up, they just get destroyed.
hmm. I was just like, I always think about how in Manhunter, when Will Graham, that iconic scene where he jumps through the plate glass window at Dollarhide, and then just
He just
immediately,
grabs him. He just gets destroyed.
yeah. Uh,
You know what? You're right. I never thought about that. That is a reminiscent scene.
yeah, there's some real like intense violence in this. Like when Chen gets blown up with a rocket launcher,
Oh
it's just
shit.
like,
That's right. It's crazy.
yeah. I mean, characters get vaporized in this, or like when Viola Davis goes down, and
Oh my
like
god. Yeah, that shit's ugh.
it's
God,
just so abrupt.
I mean, man just doesn't fuck around. He's like, characters are getting iced. It's happening.
Hmm. Yeah, there's both like an unsentimentality to these like dramatic or like intense action scenarios that he's rendering, but a real affection for the characters. Like it's unsentimental the way he has all the pieces arranged, but like yeah, you can't say he doesn't have love for these people.
Well, no, I just think it's, yeah, in a way, it's because I think he cares that he just makes it so unsparing because
Hmm.
he wants to show you like the actual stakes of what's going on.
So there's another little moment that's absent from the director's cut where they're driving in the taxi together and he
That's
looks over
right.
at her neck.
Yeah.
I mean, that's such a sexy moment where he looks at the nape of her neck,
Yeah, that's like a
and
classic. Like, yeah, it's a moment from Miami Vice. Yeah, but this is so fascinating because like man really is one of these directors. Who else was it? There was another director who was talking about like how in their movies they were just like characters just like know instantly when they're in love, and like in
Mhm.
that director's universe you just like immediately went into it and there was none of this like back and forth like justification. I forget who was saying that. It's like someone I'm obsessed with, but yeah,
Mhm.
it definitely appeals to man who like just has these people who just like end up in these scenarios and it's like, all right, well, let's I don't know, we're both like very beautiful, intelligent, interesting people. So let's see what we got here.
Yeah, his characters are always like, "Come on, time's a wasting."
Yeah, it's like it's like they're just living life fast forward.
Now, this is all new, or this is particular to the director's cut.
Yeah, we did get some more stuff with Holt McElhaney here. Nice. Yeah, the way he films Hong Kong, pretty cool, pretty gorgeous. He captures the city really well.
Yeah, I was supposed to go. Funny, like, and right at the beginning of 2020, I was supposed to literally go to Wuhan province,
Oh,
and
that's right.
like,
You told me about this. Yeah.
I never ended up doing that. But I would love
Yeah.
to go to
Glad that
China.
you didn't, gotta say.
Yeah, I would have been stuck there a while. One of my favorite chapters in this film is coming up, and it's when we meet like the Hong Kong cops who are tracking Kassar, the mercenary guy who works for like the Blackhat, and it's almost like you're dropping into a different crime movie. There's like this sting that's set up,
Right.
and they meet these
Yes.
guys.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, the sense that like you're just these characters are floating in and out of these like various places and circumstances. It's very tangible.
Right.
Like they,
And now they're losing his tail.
Hathaway feels like a global drifter. Oh, the shot
Yeah,
from the front of the car. Oh, this is so good. Look at this. Ah, wonderful.
so cool. Yeah, Michael Mann is just like, let's find Blade Runner like right here and now. You know what I mean? Like I don't need to
Yeah,
create.
well,
Yeah.
it's so fascinating because at one point, or like you could see, like in the '80s, he would have done something that's very much like Ridley Scott, like very constructed, very like expressionistic and artificial.
Hmm.
And then by this point, he's just so moved away from that. Like his movies have this ease and this sense of immediacy that he just he's able to make anywhere look interesting. I mean, like look at the way that he films this night market. I mean, it's just so dense with fucking detail and color. And, it does look like Blade Runner. It's got. I mean, but this is Hong Kong, though, right? Hong Kong
Hmm.
movies. They can't help but look good because the city is just full of these, incredible vistas and huge buildings and neon lights.
And see, this is just an example of like the thing that movies do particularly well, which is that like how much like narrative has occurred
Okay, now
in
now
their
hold on. The fucking advertisement, like the
oh, the
eye
eye
being outside
staring
the
through the
window.
yeah,
Now
so
that is
cool.
definitely a Blade Runner thing. I fucking know that's like at least I don't know, but it's such a striking visual.
But yeah, you know what I was gonna say is that like this movie's as much about existing in a place as it is about narrative. And like and I when I go to the movies, that's what I go to see is like, to watch
Right. Well, you know
these
what?
actors go
This is
through a
what I
marketplace.
say. This is what I say. Like fuck those James Bond movies where it's like, come visit beautiful Norway or wherever the hell they're at. Like those movies
Right.
are just like function as extensions of, travel agencies and crap like that. Now this movie, this is the real shit. This is the one they should actually be advertising with. Like, yeah, come visit to Hong Kong and check out our soy futures.
Mhm. Now, have you seen this actor before, the one with the scar on his mouth? Like that guy's so cool.
Oh, can't say that I have.
Right, and now we get the part of the movie where we meet Richie Coster, who's like the is he like a Serbian like mercenary or like it's the actor's
Yeah,
British, yeah.
because he's got like his whole mercenary crew.
Right, he's like just some gnarly like knock around guy that fought in the Balkans or something. Now I love this little detail where yeah, so he's got the lines on the map and they all converge in this park and they're basically just texting with like a little node that somebody dropped there like like
Right. Well, this is like a geocache type of thing. Oh no, I see. I recognize these trees. There's a part in Johnny Toe's movie Throwdown where there's like the characters try to retrieve. I think it's a set of balloons from these trees. It's
mm,
like they get on each other's shoulders and try to reach up to them.
that's such a good title, Throwdown.
Oh, it's an awesome movie. You would like it. It's cool as hell.
Yeah, so you get like the equivalent of Hannah's crew of like Hong Kong cops.
Exactly, but now like the government people are dropping in on them. It's like we have this
Yeah.
different perspective, right? Like now we're coming from the top down.
Hmm. Yeah, so right around the time, okay, so this actor Richie Coster was in The Dark Knight, and everybody saw that, and then he was in this, and he was in he was on in season two True Detective, and a bunch of other stuff. But he's a great, yeah, Elias Cassar. He's like just a hardened killer who's like the face of
Oh
the
shit,
hackers
he's in.
organization. Yeah.
Yeah, he's in fucking American Gangster. He's in the Thomas
Yep.
Crown Affair remake. Interesting.
But he's like John Ortiz, and I mean, like, I feel like I would not be surprised to see him recur in a man film in the future because he's just so malleable. Like, he could play any kind of character, really.
Right. Well, he's the type of physical presence that man loves to have, where he just doesn't have to do that much to get you to understand what type of character he is.
Hmm. We get a great bunch of guys in suits standing around in a clearing looking for something.
You know, the way this whole scene looks, the way the man photographs Hong Kong. Um, it's a different city. It's Shanghai. But have you ever played Kena Lynch 2 Dog Days?
No, but I've heard of it. It's
Yeah,
good.
kind of reminds me of that. It's like there's like a darkness and like a griminess, like this like somber feeling. So I love how you like yeah just uses the phone to fucking like find the geocache just in this park. I always found this interesting. So people just do this. People just like lay down geocaches wherever, and like you could just be walking right next to them and you wouldn't even know if you didn't know like to look for them in the first place.
Mm. I love the
It's like the
breadth of
modern version of buried treasure.
yeah. I was gonna say like you've read and played and seen so many different types of things. Like it really informs your critical perspective. You know, like you've done your diligence as far as like making sure that you're up on all the stuff.
I mean, if you say so. Yeah.
I'm
I
impressed.
no, I only really know about geocaches because what is it? One of the Tomb Raider games, or a fair bit of them I was playing. They like had them as collectibles, and like they would have like little messages on them.
Oh, cool! Like one of the new, like the rebooted Tomb Raider.
Yeah, you would go around the map and you could find them, and then you get like you would get like experience points for like looking around. I mean, it's pretty cool. It encourages you to explore the environment, and the games are so beautiful looking that you really get to like stumble across these incredible vistas and mountain ranges and stuff looking for these things.
Yeah, I need to play one of those. Those look really good.
They're great. I love yeah, the 2013 one is great. The sequel is was it the sequel that's set in like Russia? That's also pretty good. The third one feels incomplete, but it does have, some pretty cool moments as well.
I was gonna say this photo of Kasara with the cigarette, like the candid kind of like long telephoto. Like I made a little like action movie on mini DV a while ago. And I made sure I had to make one of those like dossier photos of like a hitman.
Oh, okay.
And you got to make sure, yeah, they've got to be wearing sunglasses or they got to be smoking a cigarette. On like in like a telephoto lens shot. That's like the classic, when a cop is looking at like a candid photo of the guy they're tracking, it's
Yeah, well, it's like
there's
the
cer-
pictures that De Niro takes of Pacino.
yeah, exactly.
All right, motherfucker.
Okay, motherfucker. They're a cute couple.
Just him having a life of fixing garage door openers. Somehow, I don't think.
Yeah, that's not really gonna happen. Yeah.
No.
There's an aspect of this character that like he's just so um like you get the sense he spent most of his like life in a war zone, or that he's just like
Right.
always ready to go. Like he's kind of like his console's powered down right now, but as soon as he sees that little reflection, he's like, all right.
Yeah. Yeah. You fucked up. You fucked up. Yeah. When you're doing
Yeah,
this
these
stuff,
guys
you
get
got
fucked
you,
up.
you got to be aware of like the sun. You know what I mean? The reflection.
Hmm.
It's important. People can fuck up so easily like this.
This is pinging something. Like I recently saw Horizon, the Kevin Costner movie. Wasn't there an aspect of like where the sun is in the people's eyes that like informed one of the action sequences or something? Maybe I'm misremembering it. But
Maybe. I don't remember.
great movie, by the way.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, dude. Okay, yeah. When Horizon comes out, I'm doing a commentary for that shit. You know it.
Mm, count me in. Heartbreaking that
Another fucking
this
3 hour movie.
yeah.
I love how he stumbles upon this, and then he's just like, "Okay, well, we're working now." Ah, dude, Hemsworth is fucking jacked. He looks like him. It's just
Yeah.
incredible. He looks incredible in this movie.
Yeah, he must have just this is right around when he did the first Thor.
This is right after the second one, I think.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
I think he did that movie. What is it? He's like a Moby Dick film, I think.
Yeah, I'm a big Chris Hemsworth fan. Like I think my
I
favorite
like him
Chris is
too.
Pine. Yeah.
Yeah, Pine's the best, but Hemsworth is a close second. I like him. I just need him to be in better movies. I mean, him and Furiosa was just glorious. You know, that's the type of movie I need him to
Oh
be in.
God. Yeah, he was so good in that. Another great moment, like one of my favorite little dialogue exchanges in Blackhat is when Chen and Hathaway talk to each other over the headphones. And he basically, Chen says like I object not at all to you being with my sister. I just object to you, getting sent back to prison and her being
Right,
despondent over that.
exactly. You know, I mean, that's like the matter of fact Michael Mann like characterization, where you really get the sense that like these people just have no reason to bullshit each other. They're just being direct and honest.
Hmm. Yeah, directness and honesty, like that's the medium that most of his characters traffic in. He doesn't do a lot of not aren't a lot of bullshit artists in a Michael Mann picture.
Well, and the bullshitters are almost always the villains.
Yeah, yeah. They don't last very long. I just always think about how in Public Enemies, like what that moment that Dillinger goes out, there's like that scene where he turns back to the camera, or he's being tracked outside of the Metrograph, or the movie theater at the end. And then there's
Right.
that scene where like he turns to the camera and like there's almost like a lines roar on the soundtrack. Like his eyes fill the screen and it's just like he stares
Yeah, it's
down
just
that
like an
cop who
ecstatic
was,
moment.
yeah,
Oh my god, this
yeah,
camera. Yo, look at this. This is
yeah.
crazy stuff. Look at this. This is bonkers. This is
When
so
everybody
intense.
talks about, yeah, like when people talk about what the action sequences in Heat 2 are going to be like, I think
Oh,
this thing where you get a lot of,
I
yeah.
really hope it's like this because this stuff is just like there's no one else doing stuff like this.
Oof, yeah, poor guy. This whole crew got taken out.
Now, this bit where like the camera starts off like tracking them, but then it just
Hmm.
runs into the line with them. It's incredible. Like, dude, man, just fucking thinking of these ingenious ways to stage scenes.
Yeah, he never does it the same way twice. It's always every film is like an evolution into like, a different kind of
Like he's just pushing it, going further and further,
dynamic mode.
faster.
Yeah. And I'll admit, like when Miami Vice came out, and there was some action sequences in there, some like gunfights. Like I was a little disappointed at first that he didn't just do it the way that he'd done the gunfights in Heat.
Right.
Because I wasn't ready. Like he's always kind of like pushing towards whatever the next frontier of like that kind of spatial storytelling.
So yeah, speaking of Johnny Toe, this whole section in the underground part when they're circling around, this feels so much like a Johnny Toe action scene. This is like something from like the Mission or whatever, just because it's all about this like group of characters like corner checking and
Hmm.
like trying to advance bit by bit, inch by inch down something, and just the whole tactical display of it is yeah, they're just opening fire in this like claustrophobic space. It's bonkers. Like the gunshots would be so fucking loud.
Yeah, like that moment when Kassar sets off the mines, and there's this close up where you can see that he's just like waiting for a sound, like he's just standing completely still in the battlefield, and he's just waiting for that sound that indicates that he can hit the remote and take all these guys out with
But I like how you see
the
like bit by
C4.
bit the
Yeah.
gunshots edging towards them in the horizon,
Hmm.
and then
Yeah.
they just cross the fucking Rubicon and get hit by these fucking mines.
Hmm. And of course, he knew he'd hit a gold mine when you get to this concrete structure, like the
Yeah, this
outflow,
is so
or
strange. It's
the
almost
yeah,
like a yeah, it's like a an aqueduct or something.
right. and it looks like an art installation. But I think that that's like another signature of Michael Mann is that he'll
What
find
does
these like
he and that
industrial.
too, it's like that's the Antonioni thing, like making just urban spaces look like art installations.
Ooh, just takes this guy
Oh,
out.
this too, when he fucking grabs the guy and then just ganks him in the throat.
That's such a great moment near the end when Hathaway, like, what does he do? He like stabs him through the skull with like a sharpened screwdriver or something, like just Conan the Barbarian type shit.
No, I mean, you know I love that stuff. Especially
Yeah.
like in a film full of abstractions and like, moving data and numbers and, like all that kind of shit. To have it just like it's a very Michael Mann thing to have it end on a fucking knife fight where someone's just getting prison shivved.
Well, yeah, and I mean, and we'll talk about it later, but like, for a movie that's so much about violence being waged on like either end of like a terminal, for Blackhat to literally end with like a guy getting like stabbed to death, like it's as analog as it gets, it's as up close as it gets. You know what I mean? Like you start with like people country to country, kind of like sending ones and zeros at each other, but then it ends with this very kind of like yeah, hands-on, tactile type of violence. And there's that aspect of like Holt McCallany's character. He's like such a crack shot that like he's got his little 9 millimeter pistol, but he's still like just acing
Well, yeah,
bullseyes one
he
after
knows what
another.
to do with it.
Oh, I was so sad when this guy got shot.
Yeah, it's so unceremonious. Fuck, he's just bleeding out everywhere.
Mm. But again, like Hathaway just stops everything. He's gonna try and save this guy's life. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
he's
Well,
not.
you also get the sense that, like, for as as tough and serious as he is, he's never been in a gunfight like this. Like there's something to it that is, beyond even him.
Yeah, like nobody's like super cavalier about that being in the situation, except maybe him.
Yeah, but see, I like how they retreat when one of their guys gets hit. Like usually when you have like bad guys in movies, it's like, oh, okay, one of our guys goes down. We don't give a fuck because we're evil. But here it's like you could
Yeah,
tell he's like,
they're
no,
family.
these are actually my boys. Like, and we're taking cover. We're retreating. Like that. The bad guys never retreat usually in this way. I think it's a testament to
Yeah,
like Man's dedication of being like, okay, I've thought out the logic of like what these guys are thinking while this is going down. Like it in that scene before, they have their escape plan. They have like this boat set up. Like the guy, he didn't put the mine on the wall. The mine was already there, right? And he just activated it. So it goes to show that like, he's had this whole escape thing planned out for a while if this ever had to come to it.
yeah, 100%. And right for the mercenaries, it's existential. Like when they come back at Hathaway's crew later, it's because of this moment. It's because like, well, hey, kill or be killed. Got a little water on the lens there. Now, I really like in this cut of the film the way that all the business with the reactor is kind of is siloed off into its own little like part of the movie. Whereas like in the theatrical cut, you open with the reactor and then you return to it later.
Yeah, it kind of doesn't make any sense because, like, when you return to it later, you're like, how much time has passed between the opening and
Hmm.
this? Like, it seems more like an emergency, but it doesn't feel like in a theatrical. Whereas this, yeah, it happens and then bam, you're right into it. So it does make more sense. I gotta say, like, there's some nips and tucks, like you said, like like him staring at her neck and stuff. I do miss things like that, but overall, I do appreciate what he's been like doing here. The movie feels very fleet. Like the cut that I watched, it was just a fan cut, so it did feel a bit like bloated and kind of unwieldy. But this is just moving. Like this movie is just like you start off in uh that space of ideas of what's going on, but then once you get going, it just doesn't stop.
So a fan cut, that's so cool. So somebody basically like how did they construct it? Like how do they find all the odds and ends of footage?
Oh, well, there was versions of it floating around. Like it premiered on TNT, I think. And
Oh,
so
okay, got it.
they
Yeah.
just had that. There was like upscaling. I honestly I don't know, but like the version I watched, yeah, it was like okay, but there was just there was stuff that just couldn't be put together adequately, and of course like just man wasn't doing it, so yeah. Now this shit is
Well,
like legitimately scary. Like, can I tell you a fear of mine?
sure.
Like, God, I fucking hope that no one like ever plugs because like with the AI large language model shit, I always worry that like someone's gonna plug one of those motherfuckers into like a nuclear power plant mainframe, and then
Mhm.
something like this happens. Like that's I think that's like a pretty legitimate fear. Just like like the easiest way to do nuclear terrorism 101.
Well, right. The idea of like our infrastructure failing us even momentarily is just like
Because
I
if you
was
fucking
yeah,
have everything connected, it's very vulnerable.
yeah. Right, it's all connected like you know, our institutions which we're becoming less and less kind of reliant on or we're aware that we can be less and less reliant on them as time passes. Um because who's going to have our back or who's going to come and help us when like when a grid goes offline like
All
is
right,
it
the
human
things,
beings?
yeah, there's almost like this denial of human agency.
God, terrifying. Yeah, I didn't watch Chernobyl. All right, I started watching Chernobyl because everybody was watching that during 2020 because there, I guess there's some parallels with COVID, or at least in like in terms of like the government response to a crisis like that. But yeah, like the story about that reactor meltdown was frightening to behold.
Oh my god, like the way these nighttime scenes look with the orange and the green lights, it's a Michael Mann signature. Like no one else films night like he does.
Right, and there's you get the sense there's not a lot he had to do to it. I mean, it probably just kind
No,
of
well, yeah, you
yeah.
just he's a master of like yeah, he just cranks up the ISO and you get to see these amazing orange clouds in the sky. He really is able to take advantage of like digital filmmaking to just give you these unearthly uh, kind of like woozy textures and colors.
And
I mean, in
again,
a
like
way,
yeah,
like in a film like this, when you look at the colors, the way things look, it's not too different from some of the stuff that Wong Kar Wai does. It's less extreme than that, and obviously, it's on digital instead of film. But there's a similar sense of like almost like this like blur, this hallucination, this like urban drift that these characters are going through.
he's careful to show too the all the ones on the ground suffering from the explosion. Like, it's not a dispassionate from the sky
But it's
and,
not an abstract bit of spectacle, yeah.
yeah, yeah, he like considers the human implications of something like this. Maybe this guy's real IP address.
Yeah, this is some crazy shit too. Like there's a nuclear accident, and it's like, oh, we better go on in there. It's like, oh,
Yeah, and like you've got to be a big and strong guy to do something like that because, like, you're wearing this
Or you just
huge,
gotta
like,
not give a
yeah,
fuck.
right, right, and but like, you understand, in addition to his size and strength, what pulls him through it is that like this is his ticket to freedom. It's like if he doesn't make it out of this thing, if he doesn't get the drive, if he doesn't catch this guy, he's going right back into prison.
Let's see, this is interesting. This POV shot. I don't remember that being in the
Yeah, this is
fucking other
new.
versions. Oh, okay. I like that quite a bit. I like the heads up display that it has.
Did you ever play Half-Life?
Yeah, I played the first two. Yeah.
It was funny, like just yeah, that heads up display, kind of like I forget what do they call Gordon Freeman's suit. But you know what I'm talking about, though,
Oh, the
right?
like the
Yeah,
HEV suit. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Well, this is like a classic video game thing.
mhm,
It's funny because it basically exists now. With the Google Glass, you do have that now.
yeah. But yeah, when I went to the hospital recently for surgery, I was walking down these long antiseptic hallways, and it was very much opening of Half-Life vibes to me
Right,
walking in
right.
there. I'm glad it didn't end that way,
Well,
though.
you were like fucking Alice getting out of the hospital and at the end of Resident Evil.
Right, some head
It's
crabs
like,
just jump out at me.
where is everyone? Yeah, hospitals scare the fuck out of me, man. They really do. I don't know. Like movies have fucking burned me.
Yeah.
They just made these spaces into spaces of terror.
And I think he saves this guy too. Like that's the thing. Hathaway is always like putting himself on the line for whatever like member of his crew he just met 10 minutes ago. He's like a very selfless kind of, you know, not too different from Thor, I guess. Wonderful use of slow motion.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. You get the like how he frames it then within the grate. Ah, you know what? This is a very Kubrickian sequence. Very well done. Very well done.
Mm. What a neat gizmo too. Yeah, because you rinse off the outside and then you pull off that piece of plastic and then just plug in the USB.
Yeah, like did man make this shit up? Has this ever had to happen? Maybe it has. I don't know, but it's like it seems pretty detailed, so I doubt he did make it up. But I'm just wondering, like, what was the circumstance when people had to like retrieve information from inside a nuclear power plant after a disaster? Maybe it's more common than I think.
Well, the only aspect of my experience that touches on this at all is like when I've had hard drives go down and like I've had to pay a lot of money for like data retrieval from like whatever the however badly damaged like a piece of hardware is, and people can kind of go in and like put the fragments together. And this is kind of like the most extreme example of something like that, where you're sifting through an actual like a hot like a radioactive hot zone. Now there was a little featurette on an earlier release of Blackhat where they're interviewing hackers, about the film and like its veracity and whatnot. And this whole chapter about the Black Widow NSA software, I guess I guess this is a bit of a fabrication. Like the idea that it's like it's a little bit of like a silver bullet, to kind of get them through the hurdle to like whatever the next place in their investigation is. But but the way that they're able to kind of like get inside NSA, I guess. Now that is apparently realistic. But the Black Widow program itself is kind of like a
Well,
screenwriting invention.
I imagine there's something like this though. Even if it's not this specifically.
Oh, this is Tom Cruise's brother, by the way.
What?
Yeah, yeah,
Holy shit!
something Mapother, William Mapother, I think is his name. But yeah, that's his brother.
Damn, that shit's
who's also an
crazy.
MI2.
Is he? Who's he playing MI2?
He plays one of Doug Ray Scott's henchmen.
Oh, does
So
he
he's
play
like one
like
of the
his
bad guys.
subordinate?
Yeah, yeah. He's got like some cool kind of like early 2000s hair, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Oh
Him
my
and Clint
god, yeah,
Howard.
he is.
Yeah,
He is.
good
He's a
movie.
Magnolia, Minority Report, Vanilla Sky. Wow.
You know, one movie I really needed to see because it looked awesome, but not a lot of people I know saw it, was The Woman King, where Viola Davis
Oh
like
yeah,
plays
that's
like
right.
that must have been cool. I loved Widows. Widows is like one of my favorite recent Viola Davis movies. That's kind of like Steve McQueen doing like the director Steve McQueen doing like
Yes, yeah,
his
I've
version
seen
of
it.
Heat. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I need to rewatch it. I remember kind of being a
You
bit.
weren't as into it?
Well, I was expecting it to be more mannish than I think it was because I think it turned out to have like more like Ocean's 11 type energy to it. But
Yeah,
maybe I just gotta check my expectations and see it a second time because there was like a lot of cool stuff in it. I really love Elizabeth Debicki in that film. She's awesome.
yeah.
It's also probably like best Michelle Rodriguez performance in that movie. I think, from at least from what I've seen.
Yeah, there's that amazing scene that Michelle Rodriguez has where she's trying to get like plans for the place they're gonna rip off from like an architect, and then they have like this intimate moment where they're like, she's grieving her dead husband and he's grieving his dead wife, and they kind of like spontaneously make out with each other, and it's just like this like disarmingly emotional scene in the middle of like a heist procedural that like I was really impressed by. Yeah, the movie's filled with all kinds of little surprising idiosyncratic moments like that. I like this actor. He's got like that long, frizzy hair.
Oh no, no, don't do it.
Don't
Oh
do it.
shit, dude, dude, dude.
Have we gotten that great? There's that great shot that's like up through the keyboard where we see thing. The movie like it's very tasteful. It doesn't like go too into kind of like visual modes like that. But you got to do a little bit. You got to like enliven the typing and the looking.
Yeah, it's hard to portray this stuff in like an always interesting way, but I think man does about as good as you can ask for, really. I mean, nowadays we just do like texting, like the text just shows up on screen while the character's looking at their phone, which is is fine.
Well, this is an important point. Is that like you can kind of have some trust that like if the story's got dramatic stakes that are properly conveyed, then you don't need to kind of like put your thumb on the scale and kind of like juice. Like you can have a guy looking at a screen and for it to be a fairly
Well,
kind of like
yeah, if
mundane
you
or
do the work, then like the broccoli bits, they go down easier, at least in my experience.
and see what makes Blackhat such a standout is that you move from that kind of like antiseptic hacking arena to this vibrant street setting, and like the movie just comes alive. You know what I mean? And all the little like moments between the hacking. It doesn't just happen in that realm of like screens and keyboards.
Right.
You
I think it's the key is that man he sees it as an intersection of a whole bunch of things. It's not just a destination unto itself. I
mhm.
think a lot of filmmakers they treat online stuff as here's this other separate thing, and but man, like he flows in and out of it.
Yeah, that's a great point. Exclusively for Black Hat hackers, so it's bulletproof.
Yeah, I know it's just indecipherable Michael Mann dialogue. What the
Yeah,
fuck are you talking about?
yeah, I love the screenplay. It's just this very terse kind of Now he didn't write it. I mean, he has a hand probably in like molding all of his screenplays, but it's like another
Well,
guy
he
wrote the screenplay.
he
Yeah.
didn't write it. Who the fuck wrote this? I thought he did write it.
I'm gonna mispronounce it, but it's like Morgan Davis Fowl or something like that. Like there's a guy credited who wrote the screenplay. That's not
No,
one of the
hold on.
men.
This oh no, this reeks of shit. This is the only screenplay he's ever written. Um, no, I don't. I'm not sure if I buy this, but okay. Yeah, yeah. No, man does some trickery like this. Like he'll be like, I mean, because okay,
Well, just like
you
Collateral wasn't technically written
well,
by
just
him,
like
but it
Collateral,
was.
but
Yeah.
Collateral is full of the shit that only he would put in a movie. It's like full of the mannerisms. Like I don't buy that. Like you know, no one. He didn't write that specifically for Man. You know, Man took that shit and he got his hands over it. He can't help it. That's what he does. He's a writer.
Mhm. Well, yeah, you write it 3 times, right? You write it in pre-production, then you write it in the filming of it, and then you rewrite it in the editing. And then
Yeah,
if you're Michael
definitely.
Mann, you rewrite it yet again in the multiple cuts of the movie that you
Well, see, I mean, we
obsessively
think it's
tweak
bad
over.
now, and it is bad now, but fucking, I was reading about like the films that Michael Curtiz worked on at Warner Brothers. I mean, you had everyone fucking tossing in lines. Basically, the script was a free for all. There was just nothing set in stone. The director would be writing it. The director's wife would be writing it. The actors would be writing it. The writer maybe was writing it. Like, just bonkers stuff. Like there was, when you read about like the making of Casablanca, it's
Hmm.
like, okay, who wasn't writing this movie? It seems like everyone was just tossing in shit at random.
Now this is like a heartbreaking moment for the character, because Viola Davis has her own version of this, where like these individuals on the team are just batting against the kind of like institutional resistance to like like their superiors don't necessarily give a shit about them closing on this deal. They've got their own separate priorities. And
Exactly. Yeah. And they're also like, Hathaway's a liability, basically.
yeah, I mean, it's that moment, I mean, that we're getting close to where Hathaway's got to go on the run, and then basically the entire crew gets taken out, and it's just Hathaway and Tang Wei, versus this entire like kind of like hacking unit is like you really get a feeling of like the ground dropping out beneath you. Because to me, if you're doing a thriller, like you want like as much of the story as possible to exist in a realm of like nobody's safe. Like it's your hero against the world, or like there's like
Well, you
the
want to
the,
ratchet
the
things up.
right. You need things to be as like precarious as possible, and that's where things are really functioning optimally.
Yeah, that's the classic, like, Fritz Lang, uber paranoid kind of thing where, just the impossible odds of this systemic weight on the character.
Ah, I love this movie. I'm just like I'm just I'm just thinking ahead to like I love just how it all comes together in the end, and we'll get there. But it's really intense. It's like my dad looking at his phone, like, but I can't. I thought I turned on the Wi-Fi. Like, dad, just turn it off and turn it on again. I also like the aspect of that they've got like a kind of network. Wherever they happen to be traveling, there's like helpers, that they can kind of call upon. It's just like in any spy movie, right? It's like you've got your contacts.
Yeah, it definitely is that. Yeah. Man likes that. He likes it where you can go somewhere and there's a guy who does this type of thing. He loves this like
Hmm.
sub world of professionals.
Hmm. Yeah, if you had to really like boil down this movie and what it's about and who it's just about like these three characters. And there's this central character detail for Viola Davis where she had a husband who died in 9/11, I guess, and this is all about her kind of like underlying motive is to like redeem or ensure that like a success security breach like that doesn't happen again.
Right.
So crazy how like at the time 9/11 just seemed like the most important thing in the universe and how that's all just changed,
Well,
20 years out.
yeah,
Yeah.
it is interesting. Yeah, I feel like basically it was up until the COVID thing. I feel like COVID was a big reset about stuff. Like it,
Yeah.
like things, things are just different. I mean, but this happens to everything, right? It happened to Pearl Harbor. It happened to
Hmm.
fucking JFK. Yeah, the ethereal way that he films the nighttime. You got like the
Oh, yeah, this shot in
gaseousness of the light.
particular,
Yeah, look at this.
the
It's
low
lovely.
angle with the buildings above her and then her
It's
hair
great.
blowing across her face.
Usually you don't get stuff like that from Man, the low angle stuff. He usually doesn't do that a ton, but in this, yeah, he does it great.
That's just how awesome Tang Wei is. He's like, "All right,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm
I
gonna
know.
get low with this
Yeah,
one."
I know. Oh God, no, yeah, that's a good point. Her hair is so beautiful in this.
Yeah. Yeah, the way yeah, Gong Li and then her, just, the the beautiful heroines of our modern era.
Oh, it makes me excited for Heat too, because the character that he has in that with Chris. Like that would be
Yeah.
cool if he did that.
Oh god, you just had me remembering, like,
Yeah. Oh wait, and then Neil's girlfriend too.
Elena, right, there's
Fuck.
a
Oh my
couple women
God.
in that,
Yeah.
yeah.
Shit. Heat too. We got to make it happen. Come on, man.
Well, yeah, were it not for Austin Butler, everybody was talking about Hemsworth as being, like, the natural successor to Kilmer. But, I
Oh,
mean,
I
it
think
seems
so.
like
Certainly. Yeah.
yeah.
I think it was a sliding doors thing.
Now this moment is insane where the car blows up behind her. Like, this is, like, top 5 man action moments, I feel like,
Because the
and
way
there
it's
are many.
framed, you really don't see it coming. Like I
Yeah.
mean, it's not framed in a way that usually these things are staged in.
Yeah, absolutely brutal. Because like, how many explosions have we seen in action movies? But there's but because we're not expecting it in this, because this is such a kind of like austere, um, you know, uh, realistic seeming rendering of the violence and the action. So like a giant fireball exploding behind her is just not something we can see coming from a mile away.
Oh, we get like one last wave from him. Fuck. It's
Oh,
terrible.
yeah. Oof.
I mean, and he does the anti Hitchcock thing because Hitchcock would like like do this bullshit about like but the fucking oh my god it's gonna happen, and here it just bam shit just goes off. Like there's no
Yeah,
bomb under the table, you just don't see it coming, you just get hit with a fucking rocket launcher. I see the way the sound cuts out here and you don't hear her scream. It's like
yeah,
fucking
no music.
ugh.
Yeah, it's just and then that moment's followed up with just this car.
Now this shit is ice cold. This is so
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Just him just popping dudes on the side of the car window.
Yeah, and I mean, like, he doesn't miss a shot, really. Yeah, that's the thing. His characters are superheroes right up until they're not, and then they're just flesh and blood, and they're, as vulnerable as any of us.
Well, exactly. It's like you can be the best person in the world, but also like you're not gonna dodge a bullet when it's coming for
Hmm.
your ass.
Yeah, she's not getting up.
Oh my god. Just like the last thing she sees being this tower in Hong Kong. It's just, again, Mike manages is the best at these like poetic moments.
Hmm.
I mean, it's so fucked. When I first watched this movie, I was like, God damn, everyone just died at the same time. It's crazy.
Yeah, feels bad. Feels bad.
Oh, this needle drop is new. I don't remember this. Yeah, this is different from the theatrical cut. I like it though. It's cool. It does kind of
This is
feels like a little bit Wong Kar-wai.
because, like, I think the cuts in or the differences between versions and other of Mann's films are more subtle. Like, I think Blackhat's the one where I you can really tell between the versions, like
Yeah, well, the film was
what
so
you're working on.
radically restructured that it's kind of hard not to.
Because, like, I can't. I mean, for as many times as I've seen it, like, I can't tell the difference between the director's definitive edition of Heat and like the previous version.
Well,
And
I can
same
tell you
goes
the
for,
exact
yeah.
difference. There's some nips and tucks, but really the main thing is when Vincent does the great ass speech. Then he says like afterwards, like ferocious, aren't I? But they cut that out of the director's definitive one.
Oh, they did. Damn.
Yeah,
I
because I
yeah.
had it on
I
DVD, and I remember I noticed that when I watched the definitive.
I feel bad for missing that.
Honestly, it's a pretty good cut. I would remove it if I was him.
Another little detail I absolutely love in this is when we follow the ankle bracelet being disposed of. Like, that's a detail that would just be kind of like omitted, I think.
Well, yeah, it would be
I
yada
know
yada.
exactly, yeah, yeah, but it's like it's central to kind of like, so much of this is about like the digital footprint that we leave as we move through the world, and so why wouldn't you? This is a crucial bit of storytelling. You got to show how he
Yeah,
loses the
just gotta
tail.
dump that shit in the river somewhere.
Yeah. Of course, you don't just jump it in the river. You gotta, like, have a cool motorcycle. You know what I mean? Like, you gotta make
Right,
it
right.
cinematic. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, look at this. Just the yellow, everything.
Yeah. And then you get that brutal moment where they, like, cut back to the crime scene and you just everything's spattered in blood, and you see, Holt's phone just laying there. Before I was on Twitter, because I started using Twitter in 2020, um, I didn't have any friends who liked Michael Mann or, like, were
Really?
obsessively
Okay.
yeah. who were obsessively checking IMDb for like updates about Blackhat before it came out. And so like you have to imagine like when Blackhat came out and it was just like bombed pretty much in theaters and like nobody saw it. I think I took like two different groups of friends to see it. Like
I, dude, you were doing God's work. You were
yeah.
assembling the team, being like, we must watch
Yeah.
Black Hat.
Right. Got a team. Yeah. But like that's part of what was so refreshing when I finally did get on Twitter was like, oh, everybody here likes Michael Mann. And it's all they talk
Yeah,
about.
yeah, it's
So
interesting. Yeah, yeah, I very much just became part of that community instantaneously. I've just never been separate from it.
right, because like when I was in film school, like in 2004, like that was the year Collateral came out, and yeah, I was just like, I was watching those movies, and I was like, this is we should all be watching these movies. We should be trying to
Yeah, I think Man's one of those
battle this
directors
direction.
where, as like soon as the internet fandom, like Tumblr, film space, letterbox, like you know, like as soon as these things came around, I think people were like, "Oh shit!" Like other people are obsessed with this too, in a way that was outside of the consensus. It's kind of like the
Now,
original Kaiju cinema thing, where it's like, "Oh, you like Sam Fuller too?" You know, you could bond over that.
yeah, I always loved how they make you feel Chen's absence. Like so
Right?
when a character
Totally.
dies,
Yeah.
yeah, when a character dies in a movie, so often it's just kind of like blown past because like you know how much real estate do you want to give to something like
Well,
that?
I
But he
like how
really,
he focuses on her response. You know, she really gets like a strong sense of like you understand what she's losing there and how they're stuck.
yeah. Now this has powerful like opening of the Exorcist energy. Like you kind of all of a sudden you're like in
Right.
the
Well,
middle
the
of
way
this
this is
quarry.
filmed, I mean, this is like just very strange. It's almost like a spaghetti western landscape.
He looks so cool. That's how you know you've made it is if you're walking around with like a button up short sleeve shirt and you're unbuttoned all the way to the middle. That's the key. Every time I watch this and like when he uncovers the plan that the hacker has to basically like
Right. This is almost like a surreal moment where you feel like you're in this wasteland. Then, like, you go inside and there's this like industrial. Like, this is very visceral to me. It reminds me of Dark City.
yeah, yeah, that's a great
Like, you have like this surface
parallel.
world, then underneath is this complex labyrinth of machinery. I've had
Mm.
so many dreams like this.
You have vivid dreams, right? Like you've got like when you like do you have like a dream journal where you write down like all the stuff you come up with?
Oh God, I really should. No, I don't, but I should. Yeah, most of my dreams are just me exploring things. I'm either exploring like some underground facility, or I'm exploring other planets and asteroids and stuff. I'm always like journeying somewhere.
God, like what a horrible piece of shit who would do this. Just rig the pumps so that you just flood everybody and just kill everybody. Like, well, yeah, when they uncovered the master plan, I'm just like, ugh, gotta get rid of this guy.
Yeah, you know what? It kind of reminds me of the plan that Christopher Walken has in A View to a Kill. Remember that shit? Where he's like he wants to
Oh,
flood Silicon Valley so that he can like have a monopoly on computer chips or some shit.
it's funny. It's been so long since I've seen that. I'll have to take your word for it. But I love the music underneath it too. That kind of coiling theme that they use earlier. Village people, village dogs.
That's what you're doing, isn't it? You son of a bitch. So
You
good.
son of a bitch. That's another man's signature is to kind of have the hero kind of like staring out in the middle of distance and being like,
Yeah, I
That's what
figured
you're
it
gonna
out.
do, huh?" Yeah.
Now this shit rules. I love how like they buy like a bunch of stuff, like on
Yes.
they just get like magazines and shit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
low tech. Like it's a
get a bunch of low tech stuff. It's awesome.
probably yeah, like one of my favorite moments in the movie is when he's preparing for battle and he's got like you said, he's got the magazines that he's using for body armor and then he's sharpening all these like garden
Like he's
tools
buying
to
duct
use.
tape and fucking band-aids and rubber bands and hammers and shit.
Yeah, and there's a part of her and like Tang Wei's watching him and there's a part of her where like she wants she wants him to go out there and kind of get revenge on her behalf for like what happened to
But
her
it's also
brother, but
like
at the
he's
same
the only
time, yeah.
person she has left at all.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a real kind of like free fall moment.
Because I mean, basically, if she tries to go back to the Chinese government, they're gonna be like, "You were a fucking traitor," because like what are you doing with this guy who's like the Americans don't even want this guy.
Yeah, I mean that's an aspect of the ending that is like kind of like harrowing is that like yeah, they get away with their, bodies intact and quite a bit of money in their checking account, but like there's a camera on every street corner. Like how safe are they really? Like, they're going to be pursued the rest of their lives. It's like a very
Right. But there is that, but I also think it's optimistic because they really it's the first time in a long time that a Michael Mann couple get to escape,
yeah, that's a great point.
relatively unharmed, and they at least have each other.
I'm glad he gave us that. You gotta have them win every once in a while, right?
Yeah, yeah. Now this scene with like they're both on the computers together. There's something, yeah, like the
Adorable. It's adorable.
yeah, it is adorable. It's like yeah, it's a weird couples thing. They're just out here, pursuing revenge. Oh, so good.
I bet they have like a Nintendo Switch now. Like if we can imagine like an epilogue, they're like some tropical paradise and they're just like, playing Wii
Yeah,
bowling
I
or
would hope
something.
so. That would be the nice. Yeah, like, well, that's a great thing for movies. Like, what's the day after look like, or a couple years down the line? Yeah,
hmm It's so corny. The epilogue for Heat 2. Do you
oh
remember
my
that? Where
god.
like it's so stupid. I mean, I love it. You know what I mean? But it's like Vincent Hanna just shows up in the blue room. Like where Nate, the John Voight character is, and he's like, "Hey, so you want to tell me about Christian Hairless?"
Yeah, that shit's bad. Like, I love you, Michael Mann, but some of this Heat too. There's some
Yeah,
stuff in there where I'm like, cut this shit out. Some of this is bad.
in all
This though,
likelihood, he
this
will.
is not bad. This
No,
rules.
this
Just
is yeah.
just dumping a fucking whole goddamn truck onto someone's roof.
Right, and of course, like, so part of like a hacking scheme there would need to be a burglarizing of a building in conjunction with some hacking hijinks, and that's kind of like what they're doing is like they need to hack into this guy's server, but they need to go into the real world to kind of like grease grease the wheels to make that happen.
See, Mann does this a lot in this movie where like he'll have something out of focus in the foreground, in the background, that's when shit will actually, that's what the important thing is happening.
Mm.
He's very often like that, where like the foreground you just have these indeterminate masses of, bodies or whatever, but then the background will be like this like screen or it'll be a crowd.
Yeah, what strikes a lot of us first is just the way his movies look, the way it's all visualized,
Oh
and
yeah.
it's
Well, because no
very
one bothers to
singular.
do this kind of stuff. Yeah, like it's very to be honest, like his movies look very difficult to make, and
Mm.
I am almost fascinated by just watching him lay out his process because it's just like something I could like. I'm like I could never do this. I just look at it, I
Mm.
was like, no, this is it's funny because it's like again he reminds me very much of Kubrick and Ridley Scott, just in that he just makes this very complicated stuff look easy.
Well, you're a photographer. I mean, you've directed a film and you're working on things and I That's always been an insecurity of mine. I think I've talked to you about it. Is just that I'm not the handiest photographer, whereas filmmaking is a photographic medium. So like I think that's even a Stanley Kubrick quote, right? Is that like you don't need to know a lot to be a director, but you need to know about
No.
photography.
Yeah, no, basically that's true. Yeah, as long as, I mean, and even then, it's like as long as you have a good cinematographer, you don't even need to know that much about cameras. You just like to be a director, you just need to have an eye. You need to know how to do composition. You need to know about painting
Hmm.
and like
Hmm.
photography in as much as like how to get what you want and how to convey that. And if you got that, then you're good to go. If you know what lenses are, if you know about different varieties of cameras, what you want to do in a basic sense, then you can just go and get that. And it's, I mean, it's still hard, right? But like you'll at least be, you'll be in a starting position rather than not knowing where you're going.
Well, that's always been the hope for me. Is like cultivated sense of taste and hard work, right? Can bridge the gap. It's such a cool little chapter where she this feels a bit like Ocean's 11 or something, where she's like got to run a con.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting because like man does heist movies, right? But because of like the digital
Technically,
nature of
yeah.
everything, there's more of like a con artistry element to this.
Yeah, when I went to Thailand last year, I was terrible. I didn't learn any of the language, so I was just trying to. I did a lot of pointing to things to kind of like get around on cabs and stuff, and it was
How was
interesting.
it?
Oh, it was so great. I had such a great time in that country.
Now, this whole bit with her, like doing this, it reminds me a lot of the final sequence in Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
Yeah, right. Because her costume, there's some similarities, right? Is that she's like
Yeah.
she's kind of like dressing, she's dressing up like somebody else to look like somebody else.
Oh shit, you fucked up, dude. 64 gigabytes of hacking.
Something so satisfying. They take every dollar he has. It's
Mm-hmm.
amazing.
It's over.
Fuck you.
Yeah, 73 million. That's no joke.
Kassar is just like at the McDonald's drive-through, and he's just like, "Sorry, your card's been
Yeah.
rejected." What?
Oh my god. You're having a bad day. It's
Red text. That's got to be the red text.
cover the red text.
Now, one of my favorite little bits of dialogue is when Sadak, the Black Hat, says something. He says something to the effect of like, "I don't even know." It's like I don't even know where I am half the time, and you're saying you know me. It's like he exists so much in like a digital
Yeah, but
global
he's such a
realm.
fucking poser though. Like that's like that kind of shit. It's like half of that I think is true. The other half is him like trying
Oh,
to
you think he's
make.
bullshitting?
Well, no, I think he is expressing something about himself, but I also think he's trying to like present himself as being this like mysterious, profound, like
Right.
inextricable force of you know it's like you don't know what I am because I don't know what I am. It's like he's trying to do this, and what I kind of like is that basically, like again, the man villain, they almost always are like these like kind of just pathetic dudes. They just suck, which I
Yeah, yeah.
appreciate.
They think of themselves in the third person. But I think like he's like the Black Hat is a consequence of alienation. Like, and what he's speaking to is his alienation from like
Right.
other
Well, that's the
human beings,
Antonioni
and
thing.
yeah,
It's like it's almost like he's like I don't even see myself as a human being. I'm just like an extension of the digital machine.
right. And you people are just things to me.
I love this shit. I have 74 million of his money. You make it possible.
Like that's not possible.
Dude, Hathaway just doesn't. He's not doing any of this bullshit. He's just like,
Mm.
and I love it. This is when you get to see his face now. Is when you're like, oh, he's got you by the balls, man.
Yeah, he
There's
looks
no
worried
escaping.
too.
He's like, shit, it's chain smoking.
He's got a great voice too, just like a great evil voice. Like,
Yeah, evil Australian man.
hmm. Well, that makes one of us. It's also kind of interesting too, is that like Hathaway before he was incarcerated was kind of like swimming in some of the same water as this guy. Like that's another aspect that they kind of like overlap with each other, is that there is like a tendency that Hathaway may have once had to kind of like um to put one over on people and to kind of like use his skills for crime. But like this guy just took it to like such like a godly proportion.
Well, again, so yeah, once you start fucking around with like, when you start entertaining the idea of like hacking into nuclear power plants, I think that's when you officially just
Mhm.
become a fucking complete jerk off.
Now this is so
Because
scary when yeah,
there's no like good way to do that.
right. But when he says like when I stop thinking about something, it ceases to be.
I know he's like a fucking he conceives of reality in like idealist terms, like as if everything emanates from him.
Right. I mean, I feel like politicians, they, if they get caught in a hot mic, they'll be saying stuff like this. Like they really do feel like they're at the center of the universe. Yeah, it's scary. He's like, I'll just fuck it, you know. I'll let go of my 74 million and I'll just do it again. Unfortunately, in the director's cut, they cut out. There's that very Miami Vice-esque sequence where like they're in the high rise, remember? And
Oh,
like
they cut out the first meeting.
yeah, they cut out the first meeting where like they establish kind of like that there's a spotter and a shooter. I think it just takes place at the festival, or I think they just moved right
Okay,
to that.
well,
Yeah.
not honestly, not a super big loss. I'm okay with that, but yeah, I don't know. I guess he cut that out because it is just kind of like a delay until the actual finale.
Yeah, I could see why he did. Yeah, and now we get the preparing for battle moment.
No, I love this too. Like they buy medical supplies knowing that he's gonna get fucking
Yeah,
hurt. You know,
stabbed or shot or something. Yeah.
like this is great because like you never see this. Usually it's always like, oh, afterwards, emergency. But they,
hmm.
but
Right.
she's like, no, like fucking, like this is probably gonna happen.
Which I mean, grimly, that does seem like the play. Like if you're
Now,
actually
now
gonna
can I
get in a
tell you,
gunfight,
if I'm ever going to get stabbed, I'm gonna do exactly this. I'm gonna buy a whole bunch of fucking magazines and I'm gonna duct tape them to my body. Like fuck getting
and
stabbed.
then when he folds that towel around his neck, I mean that saves his life because like he almost gets
Yeah.
garroted by the hacker later. It's all about if I can get close enough, fast enough. That's the thing about Heat 2 is like, I mean, in a sense, Man's already said it all. Like he's already said it with all his other films, but like Man, no, or sorry, Heat 2 is like the omnibus. It's like it's all of it in
Yeah,
one big.
he too is, you know, it's a very much a coup de grace type move. I mean, if he ever made it, I imagine it would probably be his last movie.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, Austin Butler seems to be training for it, so we'll see.
yeah. God, I'm so excited about that. Now, somebody told me like, was this something you were keyed into about how like the this festival and the kind of like the procession that Hathaway is moving through. It's like the pattern and the way that they're all arranged are supposed to resemble like the ones and zeros on like a circuit board.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's like what we see in the microcosm, like we're now seeing, you know, in like the same organizational principle.
Yeah, I was not smart enough to pick up on that. I'll admit that. When I first saw the movie, I just thought, "Wow, cool festival. This is a great setting for a climactic action sequence." But yeah, it's all of the piece. I love the little beat where Kassar says, "No one's gotten this close before." What an asshole too. He like goes out in the middle of this like awesome procession. He just starts pushing
Yeah,
people.
yeah. These guys always suck in parades.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I'm just
Just
gonna
like
walk through the fucking parade. Like, don't be an asshole.
it's like the nightclub in Collateral. It's like these people are just trying to dance, man. There's a really interesting line that the Black Hat has later. He's like, I get others to do my sub-symbolic stuff.
Yeah, I'm a gamer.
Yeah, yeah. But he's
Oh,
just,
the dialogue is so, it's just peak Michael, man. I'm a gamer.
yeah. God, yeah. But this like super slow motion here is so effective,
Oh, this is great.
and this
Yeah, yeah.
the
This
torches sliding
classic man
across. Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's one
see,
of
we
my
kind of enter
favorite.
this like
Yeah.
surreal moment where like everyone's walking around them, but they're having this encounter. Like it's just like this inexplicable personal uh, intersection between like daily life and then something intensely violent and private.
Right, I love that dynamic where you get this big chaotic tableau, but then you really dial in to a couple personalities within it. So it's like you get this little
Oh,
island
dude,
of
he just
yeah.
ices him, dude. It's over. It's fucking over, dude. He just gets destroyed.
And the way they shoot it, like yeah, they track down to him like pulling the gun out of his waistband, like from right, yeah, they just kind of do it all in one shot. Yeah. And then the look on the Black Hat's face is like, well, that was disappointing.
I love how you just keep referring to him as the Black Hat. It's like the like saying the title of the movie in the movie. It's like pointing at the screen. That's the Black Hat.
Well, it's technically it's Detective John Blackhat. That's his name.
That's John Black Hat to you.
Yeah. Damn it, Blackhat, you're out of order. God, I hate this guy. Stupid shirt. I hire people to do sub-symbolic stuff. I always wondered that, like, so he takes some bullet hits, like, do the magazines do anything to help with that? I imagine not,
Yeah,
but
well,
every
you got to think though. I mean,
every little bit helps.
well, you can build a bulletproof vest, not bulletproof, but you can build a vest out of duct tape that will stop. It's not gonna. I mean, maybe it
It
could stop a
reduces the
bullet.
damage maybe.
Yeah, but if the magazine, it depends. But he taped a lot around him. Yeah, and
Mhm.
honestly, it's like here's what it'll do. It'll probably like still hits you, but it's probably not going in super deep. Like I have to
Yeah.
wonder that, but yeah, it's but it is possible, and like he's already prepared to be shot, so that helps a lot. I love this shit. He tries to fucking knife him. He's just like, nah, dude,
Yeah.
sorry, dude. This is
God,
so
yeah.
brutal, dude. This
Ooh.
is this is oh, it's so hardcore. I mean, yeah, you just can't recover from that. It's a wrap. It's a wrap, folks.
That was not an ending I was expecting when I first watched this. I mean, I was just,
Right? You really don't. Yeah, but
yeah.
this is brutal. I mean, I love it. I mean, to me, that's a choice that I would make if I was telling this story. Like, how do you resolve a story that's like this, all about digital life with real consequences, right? Well, for the guy who now see, yeah, he's look, so you see, like he's been shot, but it's kind of like streaked past him.
Yeah, it looks like a
Yeah,
graze almost, yeah.
yeah,
But yeah, no, it's,
but yeah, like you
to
end that kind of story, you end it with something visceral because it brings the consequences home to an intimate level.
right, because if in the end at the end of the day, it's about human beings, and so, eventually that physical contact will need to be made, even though if, like, it's a war games type thing where most of it's happening terminal to terminal.
Right. It's just like sooner or later, like that's, you know, and really this is like the most efficient way this kind of thing can be solved is when you play on a guy's hubris. Like he wants, y- you know, yeah, he could go do another score, but he's also got a fucking ego. He's not a machine, he's a human being. And, he wants to see the guy who fucking is on the verge of besting him. And, when you can manipulate stuff like that isn't just reliant on plugging into this database or that database. That's the human element behind the entire edifice.
Right, and people don't like it when you kill their friends, and there's eventually gonna be a clapback
Yeah.
from the physical
Exactly.
world. You're gonna piss
It's
somebody
true,
off,
it's
yeah.
true.
So, yeah, I love it when the ATM, they've got the remaining balance, and he's just like, "Ah, doing pretty good there."
Yeah, not bad.
I helped my, friend of mine deposit a check using the, online banking app, and, I felt like Hathaway. It's just this.
Oh god,
It's like, "Let me log
I'm
into the
glad for
banking
you.
app. I can help." Yeah, to deposit this $200 check. Yeah.
Yeah, but see, I can love, like you could tell he's fucking hurting. Like yeah, he didn't
Yeah.
get past that without some nicks.
We should all aspire to look like that when we just got shot.
Right, right.
Yeah, such a perfect ending where we just kind of it's them, but then, you know, we see this kind of, like, world of screens that's holding them. Okay, so the screenwriter's name's gonna come up, and we'll see whatever the ghostwriter was that No offense, Ghost Rider. Yep, Morgan Davis fool.
No, yeah, okay, maybe maybe he had like the original thing or whatever, but fucking Michael Mann definitely rewrote this shit because it's got all his isms in it. He can't
Hmm.
help it. Oh, a black hat hacker named Hathaway. Oh, yeah, good movie, love it.
Yeah, and the same DP. I really liked the pilot for Luck, that HBO show that Michael Mann directed, and he made Blackhat around the same time as he made that, and they use the same DP, so it's a similar kind of like visual vocabulary, lightweight cameras, like very kind of
Oh,
naturalistic.
okay, yeah, he
Yeah.
shot Lone Star, the Nicole Kidman Portrait of a Lady, which is a beautiful looking movie.
Hmm.
Um, the yeah, Zheng Yimou's The Great Wall, which is just a fucking bonkers movie. Oh, and Aeon Flux. How could we forget?
Oh, cool. I uh I really hope that for Heat 2, Mann uses Dante Spinotti again.
It would be
That
nice.
Yeah. I think it's safe to say that this is a fairly bizarre movie in a good way. Like it's a very like unconventional and like the kind of different like visual and storytelling modes that are like grafted together. I mean, it's a pretty
Yeah,
unique
there's not
film,
a whole
I
lot
think.
like it. I mean, there are like cyberpunk movies, but this isn't really one of those. And there are, like tech thrillers, but this isn't really that either. It's like the Man movie is it's singular. I don't think you can really qualify as anything other than his type of thing.
It's like it's odd because like Michael Mann's never been an awards darling, but like for movies like this to really reach a wider audience, they would need to have that cosign from like the critical community and really like that
Sure.
like a movie. And they did never do. It's weird. It's like that. It's like that valley between like populist filmmaking
I think
and art
I
house.
think yeah, because this is kind of it's like I don't know. I don't believe in terms of like elevated, but it's it's like the high tier of a certain type of like genre film, and the people oftentimes those things get taken for granted. I think in 2015 especially people were like, oh boy, another Michael Mann movie. Like 2015, that was before really like the fanatical like crazy online Michael Mann fandom started.
Yeah.
And I think it started partially because this movie failed and people were like, well, actually I thought it was great, and like it kind of started this conversation.
Hmm.
um yeah, it's every movie finds its audience. But yeah, it's just nice to see this director's cut.
Yeah. Thanks,
Yeah,
Arrow Video.
I gotta say, to be honest, I maybe I need to watch the theatrical again, but overall I very much think this is how the film should have been. I very much prefer this, despite the little things that were lost that Michael Mann felt that he needed to get rid of. Usually, his director's cuts are pretty. They're on the right side of what the movie should be.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think this is made a case for itself as the definitive version.
Yeah, and I already love the theatrical one, so this is just icing on that cake.
Hmm.
So yeah, where is this? Where do you have this on your ranking of Man films?
I think this is probably maybe it's in the top five. Like, I liked Ali a lot more than most. I think
Yeah,
that
Ali's
Ali's
great.
fantastic. It's one of the great biopics. He remains my favorite. Miami Vice, I think, it bends reality around it, just like how kind of visually striking it is, and like how it's just I think Miami Vice is going to end up on a lot of like uh, a lot of these lists, of like the great,
Yeah,
the great action cinema, great crime cinema. But like Black Cat's up there. I mean, I think yeah. So maybe it's in the top five for me of Michael Mann's
no, it's
movies.
definitely in my top five. Well, what's my top five? My top five is Mohicans, Public Enemies, Vice, Heat, and this. I think. Yeah, I think this is number five.
Collateral would be on mine for sure. I just love how like compressed the narrative is for that. It all takes place in one night, and I think that it's like it kind of like it plumbs the depths of LA in a way that they weren't able to with Heat, just because that story is so big. Like with Collateral, they were able to like
Right, right.
get it more
There's
intimate.
well, and in Collateral as well, you have a sense of continuity that Heat doesn't really have. Heat jumps around a lot.
Hmm.
I've always wondered in Heat, like how much time actually ellipses between the beginning and the ending. I can never really tell. Every time I watch it, I'm always thinking of something different because it either feels like a week or a month or I don't know. It's hard with man because his movies elude time in some ways.
Yeah, we watched it recently, and I it felt to me like that last watch through that maybe like around a month.
Right? Yeah,
Probably,
it
yeah.
feels like it should be that, but the movie moves so fast. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. No. Yeah. This is. Yeah. I would say. Yeah. This is like firmly in my top five. I just like it more every time I see it. I think it's great. I think it's you know his more romantic movies are the ones that I genuinely go for the most. Yeah. Ferrari was great. I love Ferrari. Um, it's like probably his most like heady intellectual type movie. It's one of these classic I'm gonna make a movie about myself type things, like how
Right.
Fincher did with The Killer.
Yeah, it feels like his Cry Macho. Like it almost feels like he
Yeah,
too
his cry
should have come
macho.
before it. Yeah.
Yeah, oh my god. That's so funny.
Like Ferrari seems like it would have been Michael Mann's last movie, but hopefully it won't be.
Yeah, I hope not. Yeah. Be good one to go it on though. Oh well, we're just gonna have to do all these now, aren't we?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Which
a
one are we doing
shame.
next?
Let's do. I would love to do Manhunter, but you know what? Mohicans. We got to do Mohicans.
Let's do
I
Mohicans.
think
Yeah, that sounds good. I love
undersung.
that film.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very undersung. It's probably outside of the keep, that's like kind of the odd thing that I guess that he did that people kind of forget about. But it's one of my favorite movies of the '90s, and it's definitely my favorite from him. Just a beautiful, beautiful movie.
Man is really attuned to the way that his character. He's able to look through his character's eyes and recognize the unique way that they see the world. And I remember I was reading about Last of the Mohicans and the way that Hawkeye and the other like Native American characters, they don't like have this concept of land as something you own. They're passengers kind of like moving through the land, and like, it just as well as he's attuned to characters like Neil McCauley and the way that their experience is organized. Like it doesn't matter if a character lived 100 years ago or if he's alive right now. Like he's good at reaching out in empathy to kind of like you know these very particular ways that people look at their worlds.
That's right. Well, I think we'll leave it off there. See you all next time.